And
I don't think he does.
Well,
I know what you're
John,
saying.
well, to me, it's his decision, right? Who's the head coach, Patrick Mahomes or Andy Reid? Who's the head coach, Patrick Mahomes or Andy Reid? It's a simple question, John. The 2-week longest wait of the football season. Oh, I don't know about that. Pick out a couple of weeks in April might be actually slower than this after the draft happens, but you get my drift. The Super Bowl is upon us, but it's not. We know what teams are in, but we got to wait for it. You can wait with us, the Mac and Mac Birds 365 guys. I'm Jody McDonald, and I don't know who this thief sitting next to me is. J-Mac going with the hat look.
It's too cold. I just got in.
Out when you let the dog out this morning?
It's too cold. It's too snowy. I've spent my entire weekend watching football or shoveling snow, it seems, one or the other. So, yeah, I'm tired of it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, he's dressed to go out and do some more shoveling. We'll have to see if he can get through the 2 hours here with us here on Birds 365. Johnny Mac, we've got a Super Bowl that we've never seen before. The Cincinnati Bengals and the Los Angeles Rams have never faced in the biggest game. We've had a bunch of repeat Super Bowls over the last couple of years, and when the 49ers went up 17-7, I thought we were going to have a turn back the clock Bengals 49ers rematch.
81-88, yeah. I thought we were going to have a rematch from a couple years ago. Well, 81-88 for the Bengals. I thought not a rematch, but I thought we were going to see the 49ers in the Super Bowl again from a couple years ago because, you know, every time the Bengals get in there, it's against the 49ers. But not this time. The Rams were able to come back and do it. So, you know, great playoffs. We've been talking about divisional round, unbelievable. But you almost expected when it was 21-3. Kansas City over Cincinnati. Okay, we got our good football in during the divisional round, and this is going to be a blowout. And we're not going to have good games. Nope, we had good games again, and pretty unbelievable how close almost all of these playoff games have been.
Really has been. The last game was not decided on the last play. There were a couple of kneels down there that ended it. But prior to that, 5 consecutive games that were walk-off victories, that the last play of the game decided who won the team. So the quality of the football has just been off the charts. The NFL is living the right life these days. I'm sure the TV ratings will be through the roof again this weekend, just the way they were last weekend. We'll break down both of the games for you today. We'll certainly try and make some ties between the teams that are heading to the Super Bowl, to the hometown football team, the Philadelphia Eagles. And there was one other pretty big story around the National Football League this week about a supposed quarterback from Florida potentially retiring, and a story that just never ended and will not end and will continue to be talked about probably all week up until the Super Bowl. I shouldn't say that because Brady may come out and make a definitive statement during the week because he's on record as saying he does not want to step on the toes of any of the NFL's postseason stuff, even if it doesn't include him. So, yeah, that was a pretty big story over the weekend, which we're going to get into. But I'm going to start here, John, because yours truly was on CBS Sports Radio last night while the Ram game against the 49ers was being played. Not the easiest shift I've had to do because, you know, most of the people who might be listening to your show are watching the game instead. But the few, the proud, the Jody Mac zealots were both listening and calling me last night. And for the beginning of my show, I certainly got plenty of reaction to the Bengals and the Chiefs game. And there were some mixed opinions, and I need the John McMullen opinion. The Kansas City Chiefs had a big lead in the game, could have been even bigger. We'll talk about how important that last play of the first half was, basically changed the course and the direction of the show. But now that we know the result is in, Cincinnati rallied, won. The kid McPherson makes another game-winning field goal. What is new? And Joe Cool, the newest Joe Cool, Joe Burrow, is headed to the Super Bowl. Who lost that game for the Kansas City Chiefs?
Patrick Mahomes. You know, we Well, you more than me, but I'll probably go more than you this week. Blamed the Green Bay loss on Aaron Rodgers. I'm going to blame this one on Patrick Mahomes. Look, you're supposed to be the superstar. You're supposed to be, if not the best quarterback, certainly the best quarterback when you factor in age and all that kind of thing. When we start talking about 44-year-old Tom Brady, which we'll do, you're supposed to be the best quarterback. You know, I get in this town, while people are going to talk about Andy Reid and game management, you're supposed to trust your superstar player in that big situation. And he did. He did it last week with the 13 seconds. I mean, and it was all peaches and cream, and everybody's happy, and everything worked out. And Kelsey and Mahomes are doing this impromptu dance, and everybody's, wow, so great, so great, so great. Well, guess what? When he plays poorly, and by the way, he played poorly for a long period of time, not just the end of the first half, the entire second half. He was an abject disaster, Jody, a disaster. And for whatever reason, and I'm fired up this morning, for whatever reason, it's okay to rip anybody. It's okay to rip Aaron Rodgers. It's okay to rip Tom Brady. It's so okay to rip Matthew Stafford. You can't rip Patrick Mahomes. He was terrible in the second half of that game. When he was pirouetting around and fumbled the football, and he's lucky that it wasn't a turnover. I'm like, this is embarrassing. If this were Jalen Hurts, if this were any other young quarterback, they would be absolutely destroyed. But for whatever reason, people have anointed this guy as the greatest thing since sliced bread. So we always say only one for Aaron Rodgers, only one for Andy Reid, which I think is stupid, by the way. They're both great. It's really difficult, and that kind of speaks to the greatness of Tom Brady, which we'll get into again, because he's the outlier. Nobody else. If you go to the Super Bowls, Jody, he's played 8 Super Bowl quarters. He's played poorly in 7 of them. And he came back in the fourth quarter against the San Francisco 49ers. Now, he's had a lot of great moments, a lot of tremendous moments to come back against Houston when they got down. I forget how much, what was it, 27? I forget the exact number. It was amazing what they came back from. But 21-3 at home, and you're the better football team, and they put, you know, if you go back to early this season when Kansas City was struggling, Jody, everybody was going Jonathan Gannon on the Chiefs. They were limiting explosive plays. They were saying, guess what? If you're gonna beat us, you're gonna have to be patient. And he wasn't able to be patient. It seemed like it clicked for him, and he was able to take what the defense was given. All of a sudden, he got impatient again, especially in overtime. And there's your game. There's your season. Patrick, I don't want to hear Andy Reid. I know Philadelphia, they want to protect Patrick Mahomes. Bull bleep. And I can curse, but I won't do it this early in the morning on YouTube. But Jody, disastrous performance from Patrick Mahomes.
You and I see this one exactly the same. The only defense I'll give of Patrick Mahomes is, I got all over Aaron Rodgers last week. Aaron Rodgers stunk longer than Patrick Mahomes did, because Rodgers goes down the field, gets a touchdown in his first possession, and then did zippity-doo-dah the rest of the game. At least Mahomes went 2+ quarters as Patrick Mahomes, 3 straight touchdowns, perfect pass, 15 of 17, over 200 yards.
It's amazing how well early he played, and then it doesn't make any sense how well he played early. And then it just comes, if you have a bad game, you have a bad game. I almost understand it. If you have a bad, it's like a pitcher who doesn't have his best stuff. Occasionally, you got to fight through it, and the great ones can win a game. He was playing great, and all of a sudden, one play turns him into mush. That's bad, Jody. That was
it really
bad.
was, and he was bad. That play, and we'll get into the details of that play, which, again, does Andy Reid need to take a little bit of a hit on that play? Yes, he does, because he's the head coach. And
I don't think he does. Well, I know what you're saying.
Well, to me, it's his decision, right? Who's the head coach, Patrick Mahomes or Andy Reid? Who's the head coach, Patrick Mahomes or Andy Reid? It's a simple question, John.
He is the head coach, and
then he's got to take some of the blame. If he's the head coach and the ultimate decision on the play lies with him, he's got to take at least part of the blame. He gave it to his superstar quarterback. He put his faith in Patrick Mahomes' hand, and Mahomes made a god-awful, terrible decision. How do you throw the ball in the field to play? You've got one set, you got one play, you got 5 seconds, you got no timeout, you only need 1 yard. It's a quick hitter into the end zone. Either it's caught or it falls to the ground. If it doesn't get complete, you try it out your field goal team, you take a field goal. So Reid gets to make that call. He made it. He put it in Mahomes' hands. Mahomes failed. So Reid gets part of the blame. I'd say about 80-20 on the player. It's mostly on Mahomes, but Reid is the coach, so you can't just give him no blame whatsoever.
That. What I'm trying to say is, and this might not be you're in that category, but most people I saw are in this category. In the fact that if Andy plays it safe there, they're killing him. They're killing him. You got the best player in the game. You got the best player in the game. You got to keep the football in his hands. You got to put the foot on their throat. You got to go win the game, and he gets killed for that. Then he does exactly what people want, and I don't know if that's what your sentiment is. He does exactly what people want. The quarterback knows the situation. The quarterback knows what needs to be done, and the quarterback makes this egregious, and really 2 mistakes on one play. You make the egregious mistake of hesitating, not throwing the football away, and then you make the conscious decision to swing it out inside the field to play, which obviously is the bigger issue. So my only point is the critics killing Andy Reid. Look, he's the head coach. And this is what I respect Nick Sirianni for. Everything's got my name on it. Everything's got Andy Reid's name on it. I agree with that. But everybody wanted that football in Patrick Mahomes' hand. He's the superstar player. He's got to make the right decision. It's not a difficult decision. You go in that snap understanding, okay, it's go or get the football and kick the field goal. He knows that. And by the way, he's the first to take the brunt of the blame, and he should. It was just a bad mistake by the quarterback. So if it makes people feel better, everything. Andy Reid's in charge of the Kansas City Chiefs. He could have kicked the field goal. He could have said, my quarterback's an idiot. I got to take the field goal. He would have got killed for that as well. So that's the only reason from my perspective. I don't care about Andy Reid's decision. That is the player's fault. The player's fault.
Here's where you're overstating it, John. If they kick the field goal and win the game, nobody's second-guessing Andy Reid. Well, you say everybody would be killing Andy Reid. Not if he wins the game. Now, if they end up losing the game, he kicks the field goal, the Bengals come back, and they end up winning the game by less than 4 points. Yes, he gets called on the carpet. But chances are they kick the field goal, they hold them off in the second half.
People say it's a tie game at the end of regulation. If they only kick the field goal, they win the game. The game's played differently from that point.
Right.
It's not going to end up the same way. It changes the whole flex of the game. So I'm not as concerned with that. I get what you're saying. People are saying, if you kick the field goal, you win the game. Well, those people aren't thinking it out, logically. It doesn't work.
If they win the game, the way you just stated it, everybody kill Andy Reid if he took the field goal. Not if they win the game. If they win the game, it becomes a footnote. It's an afterthought. And nobody thinks, oh, my God, they should have gone for a touchdown there to open it up even more.
I should have said if they went on to lose the game, yes, he would have got killed for it. I agree. Sean McVay is a perfect example of that. He was a disaster as a head coach, and he's in the Super Bowl. I mean, he made 2 of the worst challenges in the nightcap you'll ever see out of emotion of the stage, that he had no chance, and he's taken timeouts away from his team and in such a close game. Just a disastrous coaching decision. And he's in the Super Bowl. So, sometimes you make bad decisions and things work out well for you. Sometimes you make good decisions and things work out poorly. That's the definition, really. Andy Reid, that's a good decision. That's what you should do with a superstar player. It ended horribly. Sean McVay, terrible decision, and it ended up in a positive fashion for him. Couple terrible decisions ended up in a positive fashion for him. So all you can do as a coach is make the best decisions possible. I thought Andy made the right decision. Bottom line.
As do I. I'm just saying, and then the result comes in, and there's got to be blame doled out. Mahomes gets the great majority of it. Andy doesn't go blameless. But I took some calls last night about Andy Reid can't win the big game. Every time he gets in a big spot, the guy's the biggest choker on the face of the planet. No, he's won a Super Bowl. He's won 3 championship games. He's lost 5 out of 8, which is not good, all of them being at home. So Andy's going to take his critique, and he deserves to take his critique. His team did lose yesterday, but the guy at the top of the blame list for yesterday's game has to be Patrick Mahomes. He is the young star quarterback that's supposed to be able to make, and not even, didn't need to be a great play, just needed to be a play, and a smart play, getting the ball into the end zone. He does the one thing that can blow up in your face. He throws it into the field to play. Yeah, that's on Mahomes, much more so than Reid. But I couldn't believe I was fielding calls about how Andy Reid can't win a big game. No,
I got a lot of it. I got
a lot of it.
I got a lot of it on Twitter. I mean, that, especially in the Philadelphia area. Now, you were doing national last night, so I'm a little bit more surprised, I guess, from that. But from the Philadelphia area, there's this narrative that Andy's horrible at game management. You know it. You've heard it for years and years and years and years. At times it's been true, you know, in each situation, you can point to certain things. What should he have done? You know, you go back to the first Super Bowl he was in. Yeah, there should have been more of a sense of urgency. And then you get into, you know, how sick was Donovan McNabb and all that stuff. Nobody knows the actual intricacies until somebody goes on record and explains it. Certainly not going to be Andy at this point. Look, I think he made the right decision. I think you have the best player in the game, according to most people. And again, I'm putting youth in there. You know, Aaron Rodgers should win the MVP. If he doesn't, it should be Tom Brady. But you know what I'm trying to say, Jody. I mean, this guy's supposed to be the future of football. He's been the reason the Kansas City Chiefs have had this little mini run where they only got one, and I hate using that term. They only got one, so Andy gets all the blame for it. Well, guess what? Patrick Mahomes, if you look at it, each individual year when the Chiefs have exited, he has not played well. He has not played well. Now, he's played a lot of great games. I'd still rather have him than anybody else in the NFL playing quarterback. But you got to be fair as well. He's far from perfect. And we're hedging. We're talking about one play, Jody. That's a footnote. If he just goes out and plays like Patrick Mahomes in the second half, that's a footnote for him. Just play like yourself in the second half. You don't even have to bring your A game. You bring your C game. You win that football game in the second half. He was an F- in the second half. It was, as I said, an abject disaster from the quarterback standpoint. So it was more than just that one play.
The dynasty conversation when they rallied to beat San Francisco 2 years ago, and the Patrick Mahomes is the only guy on the planet who could make a run at Tom Brady for GOAT status. Yeah, it's kind of sputtered these last couple of years, losing in the Super Bowl last year and not even making it this year, with Mahomes throwing maybe the worst game, certainly of his playoff career, but one of the worst games of his National Football League career. So we got that game to talk about. We've got the Rams and the 49ers. For the second consecutive year, there will be a home team in the Super Bowl. They went 50-plus years without ever that having happened. It's now happened 2 years in a row because the Bucs hosted last year and got a win. Will the Rams do the same in SoFi 2 weeks from now when they host the Cincinnati Bengals? We'll break down the two games. What kind of an effect, if any, does it have on the Eagles? Bunch of Eagle conversation about their coaches. Guys potentially leaving town. Well, a couple interviews came down. One name was mentioned, hasn't happened, but the Eagles did lose an executive this weekend. We give you the details on all of that. Our first guest is going to be our bud, Jeff Mosher from inside thebirds.com. A little bit later, we'll get NFL writer / author Gary Myers up to talk about a bunch of things, including that Brady guy. Is he retiring or isn't he retiring? But first up, Jeff Mosher from inside birds.com up first with us here on Birds 365 today.